So what happened was when my house burned down, I moved. And I wound up moving out into the country for the first time ever. And one of the books that I was required to read from my family's sponsorship was Language of the Heart. And in that book I read where had Bill Wilson, when he couldn't quiet his mind, he would do a hiking meditation. And I thought, what do I have to lose? I've got all this land and property behind me. Why not? So one day I was just a little restless, irritable, and discontent. So I go out in the woods. Now I'd like to tell you I was hiking, but the truth is I'm stomping in the woods, right? And it's fall and the leaves are crushing under my feet and I hear this. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? 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 You know, I'm looking all around, and so I'm stomping around, and I can't figure out what it is, and I hear this. And I'm like, what is it? See, I'm a city girl. I don't know if I think it's the attacker, and he's knocking to let me know he's there in the middle of the woods. I don't know. But what I did, though, is I stopped, and I got real still, and I got real quiet. And then what I heard was, and I'm like, oh! That's a woodpecker! And I got all excited because see what happened was I had a spiritual awakening. I had the very first moment of God as I understood him, because right then I had this knowing that said that God that they've been trying to teach you about in AA is just like that woodpecker, Chris. You got to get still and you got to get quiet if you want to know what he is. But just hearing the woodpecker is not enough for me because I am a good little alcoholic. I want to see the woodpecker, right? Truth is, I want to pet the woodpecker. The girls I sponsor say, no, Chris, the truth is you want to put a diamond collar on the woodpecker and take him for a walk. And I'm like, okay, all right, probably. So what I do is I start walking around. I'm trying to figure out where this woodpecker is, and then suddenly I realize he's down in this tree snag. And I'm way too short, and there's no way I can see him. But then I have another spiritual awakening. Because see, what I do see are the holes that woodpecker has drilled in that tree. And I realized right in that moment that one more time, that woodpecker is just like this God that you have been trying to teach me about. I may not be able to see him, but I can see where he's left his mark. And that's why when I speak at a meeting in AA, or anytime I'm in AA, I try and look around the room, because that's where I see God. I look at all of you, and I can see where he's left his mark. It hasn't all been easy even since then. You know, I've had my moments. 10 years away from my last drink, I was going crazy. I was in my little hometown and things just weren't going well. I know you're going to be shocked at this, but I had gotten myself married in sobriety. And it wasn't the healthiest marriage ever either, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to deal with this situation that I had gotten myself into. And so I'm stomping out in those woods one more time, and I cry out to this God, and I'm like, God, you have got to help me. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know what to do. And what happened to me was I came back, and God spoke to me again through a phone call. I walked back in my house, and within a few seconds the phone rang. There was a gentleman on the other end of the phone, and he said, Chris, I don't know why I'm calling you. I said, well, I don't know either. He was out at Joshua Tree State Forest out in California. He hadn't had a cell signal all day. He kept getting a nudge to call me, and he had said to God, you know, I can't call her. I don't have a signal. And of course, right about that time, God gave him 3 bars. And so he picked up the phone and he called me and he said, how you doing? And I finally had the humility absolutely necessary to tell you the truth. And I said, I'm not doing so well. I've gotten myself in some positions in sobriety and I'm really embarrassed and I don't know where to go. And he said, I think there's somebody that can help you. And that gentleman, he's going to be speaking at Lake Milton here in a couple weeks. It's a couple hours from my home. And I said, okay. And so what I did was I went a couple hours from my home and a couple weeks. And the gentleman that was speaking, giving that big book workshop, was Ed M. that I told you about. And I began watching him and I began listening to him, and then I saw something in Ed that I had never seen in anyone as he spoke. I looked into his eyes and what I saw was God for the first time ever in another human being. And I began to cry and I began to sob. And at the end of his talk, I ran up to him and I said, Ed, I saw God in you. I saw God in you. And I'll tell you what, I'm not a good crier. I'm one of those girls my son calls a hyena crier that you guys hate to break up with in public. I'm like, you know, and I have got snot pouring out my nose, and I got the Alice Cooper makeup, and I'm running up to this guy saying, I saw God in you. You know, and he was so gracious, and he took his big hands and just wrapped them around mine, and he said, Chris, the only thing that you see in me is a reflection of what already lives in you. And right then I had a spiritual experience. That dark and that black and that ugly that I told you about in my chest, I literally felt it go, shoo, and it closed all the way up. And it has never opened since. I did not know what was going to happen to me from that moment. From that moment on, I became rocketed into that fourth dimension that our big book talks about. People were put into my life instantly with the experience that I would need, that had walked the path that I had walked through, that would give me the strength to get through what I needed to get through. They took me from a spiritual nomad at 10 years sober to a woman who is more passionate, excited, and devoted to being of service to God and the people in Alcoholics Anonymous than anything else I have ever done in my entire life. Now, I want to tell you, since that time, I have not been the poster child from Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, at over a decade of sobriety, my life looked like a bad country song. You know, within a very few short months, my dog died, my dad died, I got divorced, and I moved from a big, beautiful home into a little tiny single wide trailer that if you made a pot of coffee and took a shower at the same time, the well quit. You would think nobody would want what I had. But what I got to tell you is I sponsored more women right then than I've ever sponsored in my whole life, and I know it was for two reasons. God knew what I needed and sent them to me to keep me busy. And the other reason was a couple of those ladies later on, they told me, they said, we were watching you do the deal. We were watching life show up and hitting you in the face. And you kept showing up at meetings, and you kept answering your phone, and you kept being of service when they asked. And once again, I tell you, that has nothing to do with me being a good member of AA. It has everything to do with my family of sponsorship, because that is how I've been taught in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I've been taught to practice these principles in all my affairs and carry this message to other suffering alcoholics. I've been taught it's just not my job to abort the process. And sometimes when I carry this message to other suffering alcoholics, they aren't ready for it. So I've learned that sometimes the best 12th step I can do is just a very good 11th step. Because you may reject my suggestions, you may even refuse my love, but you're absolutely defenseless against my prayers. And that's another reason that I try and look around a room, is because tonight, when I do my nightly review, I will take all of you back to that room with me and say that silent prayer that got each and every one of us a seat in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I do try and practice these principles in all of my affairs. And I had an experience on the way here this weekend that just proved that to me one more time. See, you guys taught me that sometimes we do things for fun and for free, and just for the nature of being of service. And there's a place back home that I found to hike at. It's a free botanical garden that has a woodland trail that is part of my spiritual practice. And I began hiking there every day. And there's a lot of jokes about it, how they used to see my footprints in the snow and wondered who the heck would be out there walking in the snow. But it just became a love of mine. And I'm going through a situation in my life right now, you know, where the finances are a little tight like a lot of people. And as I said, my son's out in Missouri now, and I have my first grandbaby on the way. And I was trying to figure out, how am I going to have the money to go out and see that grandchild like I would like to? I've been volunteering at this botanical garden for about a year now, because you guys taught me how to give it away for fun and for free. I got a call on my way here yesterday, I guess it was. They offered me a position I wasn't even looking for, that will more than double take care of the money that I needed to get out to see my son and my grandchild each month. That is how the God of my understanding works. That's what happens when I practice these principles in all my affairs. You know, I could go on for another 2 hours with the stories that have happened to me because of that. But I certainly won't do that, because all of you have been so patient. I do want to share one quick story, though, that did happen with my son. that just to me is absolutely just proves the power in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and practicing these principles in all of our affairs. And that was, we were on our way to New York not too long ago to an AA function. My phone rang, it was the middle of the afternoon, and it was my son's name. I saw it come up and I was just horrified because, like I said, he's a firefighter, so of course the hamster says, there's a problem, you know, but instead I just answered the phone, hello, are you okay? Is everything okay? Is everything all right? Is everything, you know, and he's like, Mom, calm down. Just wanted to let you know before, you know, you heard from anybody else in the family. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And he said, well, Mom, I just wanted to let you know that I'm on my way to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I said, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, what are you doing? And he said, well, Mom, that's where that tornado leveled the town yesterday. I said, yeah, I know, babe. And he said, well, Mom, I heard they need generators and gasoline down there. So I asked if I could get off work to deliver it to them. And I began to cry, and I said, buddy, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of the man that you've become. I'm so proud that you're helping all those people you don't even know. And without missing a beat, he said, Mom, where do you think I learned it? It was from watching you help people you don't even know. See, that's just one of the many miracles. And if that was all I've ever been given from the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, it would be more than enough. But the biggest gift I've ever been given is that I no longer have to believe in things I can't see. You see, when I'm at an event as grand as this, or if I'm just sitting with you one-on-one over a cup of coffee, I'm given the opportunity each and every day to look directly into the eyes of God. And I am so grateful that my divine assignment led me here to Orlando. And it's with great anticipation that I pass the torch for the rest of the weekend. I look so forward to seeing what it holds. Thank you.